then you're going to need somewhere to live to go with that. And so just thinking a little bit further into the future, John Daly is going to tell us about housing in Liverpool in 2050.
Good evening. So unless you've been living under a rock for the last few months, you know there's been a general election. And of course, there is a new government, and we've been discussing loads about economy and energy and cost of living and a number of other things. But within housing, the big thing that was we become obsessed with building new homes, 370,000 a year. And look at that graph. The last time we done anything like that, it was before 1970. A massive, massive need for homes. We understand that. But at the same time, the actual figure that we're delivering at the moment is actually in line with the current population growth. And believe it or not, population growth is going to slow. So why are we focusing on going mad on house building when it is slowing? It's like the homeless and the empty homes. And for me, alongside the UK Green Builders Council, 80% of the homes that we have now are going to be here for 2050. So you're thinking, why are we not focusing on the 80%? We're focusing on 20% of the problem, which I just think is just a bit nuts. But again, there's wider challenges for this. 20% of all carbon emissions is from housing. There's wider agendas on this. So the Paris Climate Agreement with a number of different countries, and of course, activists such as Greta Thunberg remind us that we have to do our best to reduce the amount of carbon that we are emitting. And again, this came into the nation in terms of legislation, not only in terms of the Climate Change Act in 2008, but that guy in the middle, Chris Skidmore, in 2019 made the target even more intensive, and we're constantly getting told by the Climate Change Commission we need to do better. But you don't need to look far to look at the challenges. Energy in the next few months is going to go up 10%. Cost of living is increasing by 20%. Rents are on average going up about 9%. And of course, mortgages still in the 5 to 6% increase category, which is mad. But when you think about it, with all these financial pressures, who's going to pay for it? Because ultimately, even if we want to take all housing to net zero standard, the social and the private, it's £200 billion. And I haven't got that in my back pocket. I don't know who else could afford something like that. But Liverpool is very similar. We've got 230,000 homes, 500,000 people. We have to basically extend the amount of homes by 60,000 to 2050 to keep up with the population. But at the same time, we've got our own challenges. So I said before, the population is slowing, but intergenerational living is a very big challenge. We're going to see people living longer. And again, how are we going to have more people living in the space that we have? 50% of all of our homes are a council tax mandate. They are the smallest homes that you can buy. Likewise, in terms of deprivation, we are the third most deprived local authority in the country for health and wealth. And in the next few months, 19% of all people are going to choose between heating and eating, which for me, in this day and age, is a disgrace, because we shouldn't be choosing for that. Likewise, our current homes, only 45% of them are warm enough to 2030 standards. 55% are under EPCC, which the government is saying is the 2030 standard. So there's a lot going on there, and that's all linked towards wider agendas, such as the NHS, and again, the Healthy Homes agenda. 1.4 billion is spent every year on just treating people for cold homes from damp and mold, which unfortunately we saw the untimely death of Awar Bishak. But we're doing enough for housing providers to be able to prevent this in the form of external and internal wall insulation, but also as well looking at innovative methods to look at how we insulate homes underneath the floor. And we're also using more sustainable methods for roof insulation, such as sheep's wool, which is quite sustainable in itself. Likewise as well, we also have to look at the energy that we are using. So hydrogen is going to become a bit of a thing in the next few years. But we're seeing a lot more electrification. We're seeing a lot more around air source and ground source heat pumps amongst solar. And again, 20% of your bill is all down to the way you use your energy. And that is to do with these things here. There's technology that's actually trying to help you reduce your use to make your home a bit more smart in how we're doing it. Some of these you've already got. If you had to ask me what housing in 2050 in Liverpool would be like, it's an easy 4-letter word. T, it will be the presence of technology. I've just shown you there is a lot going on, and it's only going to get more, which is a bit mad when you think about it. The next one is about the E, and that's about the electric versus hydrogen debate. It's going to be a bit VHS versus Betamax, or Blu-ray versus DVD. I don't know what generation you are, but it's one of them two anyway, and it's going to be interesting to see the difference between it. Next as well is going to be about culture. So I said before about how we use our energy, but we have to be talking amongst ourselves as communities to think, well, what can we do to make sure that we're reducing our usage? And last, and no means least, is about H when it comes up now, right? It's about highlighting all these changes because ultimately we matter as a community. And for me, we need to highlight to our politicians and our leaders that we matter and we have to keep them accountable for sustainable homes, neighbourhoods and lives towards 2050 and beyond. Thank you.
Brothers got tonight to keep you cottoning around.